Well, the core idea is that cisgenderity isn't a natural, self-evident state, but rather a regulatory fiction, a sort of invisible norm that shapes everything from our legal systems to everyday language.
And that normal status offers a kind of unearned privilege, doesn't it? Yeah.
The idea is that the cis-normative framework operates so invisibly, we often don't even see its boundaries until someone challenges them. Welcome everyone, today we're diving into some pretty deep topics around cisgender constructs and the mechanisms of silencing in our society.
Absolutely. It's a lot to unpack, and I'm excited to jump into it. So, what's at the heart of this discussion?
Well, the core idea is that cisgenderity isn't a natural, self-evident state, but rather a regulatory fiction, a sort of invisible norm that shapes everything from our legal systems to everyday language. It's like an unspoken rule that defines which bodies get recognized as normal.
Right. And that normal status offers a kind of unearned privilege, doesn't it?
Exactly, and what's fascinating is how this privilege is maintained through both institutional structures and cultural practices, like media representations and language itself.
Yeah.
The idea is that the cis-normative framework operates so invisibly, we often don't even see its boundaries until someone challenges them.
So in a sense, language is a tool of both construction and control here, correct?
Absolutely. Language, and not just casual talk, but also the grammatical and discursive norms, plays a major role in building this cis-normative reality. Think about pronouns and gendered terms that limit our view to only two categories, thereby excluding non-cis identities without even mentioning it. It really shapes social expectations almost unconsciously.
And this invisibility of cisgender norms, it sounds almost like a weaponized silence, right?
Exactly. It's all tied up in what's been termed epistemic violence, or cis-normative epistemicide. This is where non-cis and non-binary expressions are not merely ignored, but actively invalidated by the system. It's quite deep. Think of it as a process that systematically erases alternative understandings of gender.
I find it interesting, though, that this isn't just about naming. It's tied to power, historical context, and even structural systems like medicine and law.
Correct, it's multi-layered. Historically, from Aristotelian ideas to Victorian laws, gender roles were hardwired into the social fabric. This normalization even gave rise to legal practices that solidified cisgender identity as the default, while any deviation was pathologized, sometimes brutally so.
I see. But I have a question here. Doesn't the recognition of alternative identities in mainstream discourse, say, through inclusion in media or academia, help deconstruct these rigid norms?
That's a great point. Actually, while incorporating new identities might seem like progress, it can sometimes reinforce the existing framework. You see, if you just add trans and non-binary identities into the same system without challenging the underlying binary structure, you're just prolonging the regulation. It's like patching up a leaky roof without replacing the whole thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And those institutional practices, such as those in healthcare and education, seem to be critical here. How exactly do they contribute to this cis-normative regime?
Well, in healthcare, for example, practices based on binary classifications not only marginalize trans and non-binary individuals, but also create barriers to essential care. Similarly, in education, curricula often omit discussions of gender diversity, reinforcing the idea that the cis norm is universal and self-evident.
So, it's a self-reinforcing loop, right? The more these systems are built around cis-normative ideals, the more they naturalize this normal identity, making it almost invisible.
Exactly. It's like a circular design where the norm is both the starting and finishing point, and language is key here. It's used to legitimate these structures by repeating them over and over until they become just the way things are. It's almost hypnotic in its persistence.
And what about neoliberal influences? How does that tie into this picture?
Neoliberalism enters the scene by individualizing collective struggles. With identity commodification, even the act of asserting one's gender becomes a marketable asset.
Yeah.
This transforms what should be a political struggle into personal self-optimization, obscuring the larger structural issues that fuel inequality.
It's ironic, isn't it? The push for inclusion in market spaces can ironically uphold the very norms that marginalize many.
Definitely ironic and problematic. Despite outward signs of progress, such as increasing gender-neutral fashion markets or token representation in media, these measures often don't address the core institutional and epistemic frameworks that make cisnormativity so resilient.
Right. Now, regarding resistance, how can those who are marginalized fight against such ingrained systems?
Resistance surfaces through alternative discourses and counter-narratives. Grassroots movements and digital activism, for instance, create spaces that challenge the dominant cisnormative dialogue. In these spaces, language is reshaped and the binary can finally be questioned and even dismantled bit by bit.
That sounds empowering. I mean, resignifying language and promoting inclusive vocabularies could pave the way for more genuine recognition of diverse identities, no?
Absolutely, it's about opening cracks in the cisnormative edifice. But here's a twist. While resignification is vital, it must go beyond superficial tweaks. The real challenge is to destabilize the conditions, to question the whole idea that gender has to be such a fixed vector of social recognition.
Yeah, I get it. And if we look at the idea of cisgender privilege, it really comes down to how invisible these advantages are, right?
Precisely. Cisgender privilege is insidious precisely because it's taken for granted. Many cis individuals navigate life without facing the rigorous proofs of identity and legitimacy that trans people do. This systemic invisibility reinforces barriers to social change because those with privilege often aren't aware of or are unwilling to acknowledge the disparities.
But couldn't one argue that by simply expanding representation and enacting anti-discrimination policies, we already take concrete steps toward change?
That's a fair point, yet I'd respectfully challenge that notion. While representation and policies are crucial, they frequently operate within the same regulatory framework. Simply adding more voices into a system built on cis-normative assumptions may, unfortunately, just reconfigure the playing field rather than fundamentally change it.
So what's the way forward then? What transforms these structures at their roots?
It's about cultivating a shared ethical responsibility. This involves acknowledging that privilege comes with obligations to actively dismantle oppressive structures through, say, critical education, institutional reforms, and reshaping our collective discourse.
Right, indeed.
It means reimagining what normal can look like when it fully embraces gender fluidity and diversity.
And that touches on politics too, doesn't it? The idea that resistance must be interconnected, linking gender with race, class, and other identities.
Absolutely. Intersectionality, as coined by Crenshaw, shows that no identity exists in isolation. The struggle against cisnormativity must be embedded within broader battles for justice against racism, classism, and patriarchy.
It almost sounds like we're calling for a complete overhaul of our collective consciousness.
That's exactly it. Transforming not only policy and practice, but also the way we think about identity and recognition. It's a radical re-envisioning of society where the multiplicity of identities is not forced into binary molds, but celebrated and allowed to flourish.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Such an involved system. All these layers of institutional practices, language, neoliberal influences, and ethical responsibilities definitely paint a picture that's as complex as it is urgent.
Indeed, it is complex and messy, but it's also full of potential for change. By continuously questioning norms, resisting epistemic violence, and fostering inclusive dialogue, we can chip away at these deep-seated structures.
Absolutely. And hopefully, one day, we'll see a society where gender isn't a mechanism for exclusion, but a spectrum of rich, diverse expressions.
Exactly. That's the emancipatory vision, a future where every identity is respected on its own terms, free from the constraints of outdated and oppressive norms. It's a call to action for all of us.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for this engaging deep dive. It really opens our eyes to the deeply embedded mechanisms of power we often take for granted.
Thank you as well. It's conversations like these that spark the critical reflection we need for real transformative change.